I grew up at 251 4th Street here in Beaver. Loved every minute of it. We had a wonderful neighborhood. It was full of great people. It was full of educational opportunities. I had lots of great friends. We were a great group of kids that enjoyed each other and went to College Square Elementary and enjoyed that. I like to play instruments, so I played piano and participated in the chorus there. Also enjoyed the academic games at the elementary school. I was just sort of always a nerd, always kind of a dork. I always just walked to my own beat, you know, it was my own drum, it was my own thing. Then went on to high school and enjoyed the first part of high school. The second part of high school was really difficult for me. I had my daughter when I was 17, I was a junior. I was a pretty angry and upset teenager because I just didn't have my way in the world and struggled to just get out of high school and graduate. And I relied heavily on knowing that I would succeed. So I moved forward with my education and created like a 20-year plan and knew that I wanted to have a PhD by the time my daughter graduated from high school. And that happened. I had tremendous resources as a kid because my dad is the most brilliant person I've ever known, and his siblings are also brilliant. They taught me about science, and so it gave me interest in education, and I started becoming interested in psychology. My interest in cold case work stemmed from being retained by the district attorney's office down in North Carolina. I was the head and the co-founder of the crime scene reconstruction and behavioral analysis unit there. And I was also the head of the cold case task force. And I just really felt strongly about they each deserved a look. In 2007, I was given the unsolved murder of Harold Gentry. And I ended up discovering that the suspect in that case was a woman named Betty Newmar, who he had been married to in '86. She then had 5 dead husbands and 1 dead son. We arrested her in 2008 for the solicitation to commit murder of her husband, Harold Gentry, and before she was tried, she died. That case changed me, and I've never been the same since then, and my life has been focused on cold case work and specifically intimate partner homicide / domestic violence homicide. A staged crime scene is when, in a homicide situation, is when an offender kills the victim and then changes the physical evidence in the crime scene to make it look like a legitimate death, like a suicide, an accident, something of that nature. The crime scene stager is only limited by his own ambition, his own enthusiasm, his physical ability in relation to the physical condition of the victims. The new book is entitled Crime Scene Staging Dynamics in Homicide Cases. It's actually the first book to ever address the topic of crime scene staging exclusively. So the book is divided into 3 parts. The first part is the historical elements of staging, which we do not have a lot of. The second part of the book is about who are the offenders and who are the victims. And then the third section is the most interesting, I think. It's the investigatory piece of the book. And it's, what do you do with it? When you walk into a crime scene, what do you do? What's the first question you ask? The first question I always encourage investigators to ask is, who is in conflict with your victim? The second thing I always encourage them to ask is, who discovered the body? And then the third thing is, what was said on the 911 call? The 911 call information can serve as your first baseline when you walk into a crime scene, because that's what that person who called it in is signing up for. So when you, in a legitimate case, they come in and they say everything lines up to exactly what was said on the 911 call. But with stagers, it can be different. With stagers, what they think you'll believe is what they say on the 911 call. So then when you go in there and compare it to the crime scene, sometimes it doesn't add up and you know you might be dealing with a staged scene. As a forensic criminologist, my job is to marry the physical evidence with the behavioral evidence. So what I like to do is, where a psychologist will focus solely on the behavioral evidence, I actually bring them together and mesh them together. So we take the bloodstain evidence, we take the bullet trajectory evidence, and then we take what we know about that offender, even if it's a John Doe who we don't know who it is yet, and we create what we know about him based on the crime scene. So a crime scene is ultimately a reflection of the personality of the offender. The kaleidoscope system is the most comprehensive and versatile crime scene reconstruction system in the world. In 2008, I was out at a crime scene in a place called Caroline, North Carolina, and we were using wooden dowel rods, and I couldn't shoot the lasers the way that I needed to shoot the lasers. So what I did was, I said to my team there, you know what, this is the last time we're ever going to use solid dowel rods. And what I found was a material that actually makes dowels glow, and it's like a plastic material, and the dowel glows very, very brightly. And so you can take a laser and shoot it through there, and it lights it up. So instead of having to sight these lasers in the traditional way, the first phase of the kaleidoscope system was called tubular dowel crime scene reconstruction. The kaleidoscope system at this point is two-pronged. It has the bullet trajectory side, where we reconstruct trajectories both in walls, in styrofoam heads, and other things like that, along with the bloodstain side of it, where we can reconstruct bloodstain patterns simultaneously with bullet trajectories. So it gives a very bright picture to juries of how the blood got to where it landed from the source, which is typically the victim, and then also what was the path of that bullet. So with the kaleidoscope system, we're able to track that entire path from the firearm itself all the way through all of its intermediate targets until it finds its final resting place. I always say that, you know, I'm not afraid to fail. I'm afraid of not having the opportunity to try, and that goes for cold case work. So as the Vice President of the American Investigative Society of Cold Cases, our entire mission in life is to advocate for cold case victims and their families. In a two-pronged sense, it extends to then law enforcement agencies, where we are here to support those law enforcement agencies. And so we provide like a free service of expert review, and then we provide a report back. So I'm profoundly passionate about cold case work and advocating for victims all over the world.